What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So I have been asking myself a question recently in Motorfest, and well, I've also been noticing many people asking the exact same thing on social media. And what is that? Does Motorfest actually need pedestrians in the city, or at least, NPCs walking around to make it feel more alive? And on top of that, do you actually think we should be getting updated NPC cars around the map? Now, I did actually want to touch on this a bit more because I would actually say right now that, yeah, we probably don't have to have like AI walking around. It's not a huge deal. But the thing is, I feel like a lot of players do actually want it. And on top of that, I do actually think a lot of players have been requesting it. I've been seeing this all over X on Instagram and stuff. And I feel like, you know what? Maybe it would actually feel a bit more alive if we did end up having pedestrians walking around and stuff. But also, though, I feel like there's a reason why they don't. Now, we all do know right now, being in Honolulu, that, well, this is obviously going to be a very big city for that matter. We obviously have the beaches over here and stuff, and you would probably expect people to be walking around, chilling on the beach, walking around on the walking paths, or being in the city and stuff like that would probably make a lot of sense. But the thing is, guys, I really do feel like there is a reason why they don't have pedestrians in the game. Now, I know this is probably going to sound insane, but hear me out for a second. We all do know right now that Need for Speed Unbound has pedestrians walking around, which I will of course show some gameplay of that in the background so you guys can check it out. Now, yeah, it is going to be like animated or whatever, but there is still people walking around the city, which that is going to be a version of Chicago, and you would know that the city has people in it, so they are going to be walking around everywhere. We also did see a lot of people walking around in the Crew 2 and stuff, and that is probably going to come down to the fact of that map being absolutely massive. You can actually find random houses in the middle of nowhere with people sitting on tables. Like, it was kind of dope. Like, yeah, you're going to be driving in the middle of nowhere, but there is legit like a life to it. There's people walking around, and I feel like that is probably going to make the overall immersion a lot better. Also, quick note, by the way, I did want to show this. Fun fact, guys, if you head over to this building located right here on the map where I am, which is going to be here, like this small looking building, there's lakes there right by the center here, you're actually going to notice that the bushes are kind of floating in the air a bit. Never actually noticed this, but kind of hilarious. You guys will see it on that one there. Not really like a big deal, like I'm not making fun of the game or anything, but it's kind of funny seeing that because it brings me back to the Crew 2, seeing like rocks floating and stuff like that. It's kind of hilarious. But the thing is, on why I think the pedestrians are not in the game, though, is going to come down to the simple fact of, does it have something to do with the manufacturers in the game? Now, that could be Toyota, could be Nissan, it could be any of them, on why they might not actually want pedestrians in the game, because we do know if you're not running them over, it's going to look like they get out of the way, or people might be driving on the sidewalks on like a Mustang, and you guys probably see where I'm going with that. But a lot of players might be doing that, like driving in certain places, making the pedestrians move. Maybe the manufacturers don't want people actually looking like they're getting run over, and that could be a big reason why they don't have them in the game. Now, I do understand that, yeah, Need for Speed Unbound does have something like this, to where you'll probably end up seeing, like, the pedestrians try to dodge you or at least get out of the way, like, yo, bro, don't run me over, like, they kind of have, like, an animation. You're also going to see this in the Crew 2, which is incredibly similar. Now, the thing is, players are like, yo, if y'all add some AI into the game or something that actually walk around the map, it would make it feel so much more alive. And you know what? I do have to agree with this in a way. I mean, we all do know right now the entire map is a bit empty, like there isn't much of that stuff going on. We all do know on top of that, we also have something like the pedestrian cars that drive around, or like the AI NPC vehicles. They are all going to be incredibly old and basically the same from the Crew 2. I actually made a video about this a while ago on Unbound, to where I was like, yo, what if we actually had newer car models driving around the map? Now, I do understand that's not, again, a big deal, and I do know players are probably not over here like, yo, blocked, bro, we don't need upgraded NPC cars and AI walking around, bro. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But I do feel like in the game, it would make it feel more alive and also a bit more immersive. That way, players might want to jump into the game a bit more. Probably have a better feeling when cruising around the map. Like, you're driving around Honolulu and the entire area feels alive. Like, you see people eating at tables, or you see like NPCs walking around. It would probably be a pretty cool feature. I remember being on the crew too a bit ago, and I was like, yo, there is so much life down here in Miami. Like, you'll see the people on the beaches, you'll see like people on the walkway pass, or walking around the city in certain places. Like, it does give the game like a more alive feeling to it. Now, once again, I do understand that people are probably like, yo, no, bro, we actually need more cars, we need more stuff in the game, like more races. We probably don't need walking NPCs going around, which I really do think certain manufacturers have a reason why they're not there. Could it be something like Toyota? Could it be something like the other ones being involved in the game to where they're like, yeah, dude, we don't want our cars looking like they're running people over. Maybe that probably doesn't look all that good to manufacturers, like even Ford or something. Because here's the thing, I'm actually willing to bet right now that they most likely were going to add the pedestrians walking around like Honolulu or the cities and stuff like that, but they were most likely told that no, you can't do that, or probably maybe we shouldn't do that yet. Let's go check in with like the other manufacturers. Maybe they actually said no, not to do it. But do y'all actually think that is the biggest reason why we don't have pedestrians in Motorfest? Funny thing is, I would actually say that does make a lot of sense. If we look at something like the Crew 2 and Motorfest, both games have a very similar part of cars in them. Most of the manufacturers are the same. Nissan, we have Ram, Dodge or Ram, which is separated. And you're also going to see something like Alfa Romeo and Fiat, which Fiat does, own most of the manufacturers I have just mentioned. We also have Chevy and GMC, which is still going to be the same company. We then also have Ford on top of that, which I would say a lot of players might look at it and go, yeah, most of the manufacturers are kind of the same here, but then we're going to have something like Toyota on Motorfest. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that Toyota is the reason why we don't have pedestrians or other things in the game, but I would also say in some ways having some of these manufacturers in the said game might come with something that is not going to allow them to do certain things. Do let me know what you guys think about that in the comments below. I feel like that is a possibility though. And because we're already on the entire conversation of the manufacturers, I also wonder if that's why we don't actually have different cars that drive around like NPCs in the map. We all do know right now that maybe they might have a role, like who knows, maybe they don't want to see a Mustang driving around or a Ram or some of these other vehicles around the map, because that would actually be a bit weird for the manufacturers to have them being AI instead of being able to actually use them. I honestly don't know how the entire licensing thing works if they can only have the cars like you can drive them. Maybe they can't have them on the map itself. That is also probably going to play an interesting role, but if we look at something like Test Drive, we see the Mustang driving around, the Audi TT and stuff. You see like the F-150 Raptor that is going to be slammed into the map, which is kind of interesting. But those cars do drive around the map as actual AI vehicles. Now, yeah, you're probably going to see the exact same 2 or 3 or 4 cars everywhere around the map, though, so I wouldn't say that's necessarily going to be better. Quick example, guys, would you rather have the current traffic we have in the game, which we're going to see like box trucks, ambulances, and weird stuff like that? You're going to see different cars like the one that looks like a Charger, some other cars that don't actually look like they belong in Hawaii or even in America for that matter. Do you actually want to see that, or would you rather see something like the same 2 or 3 cars, like let's say a Charger, maybe a Dodge Ram or something, if it used to be called a Dodge Ram? I know it's now called a Ram, always messing that up. But if you saw, let's say, a Charger or Ram, maybe a Challenger, maybe an F-150 Raptor, something like that driving around, but it's only those 3 or 4 cars, what would you guys actually prefer? Let me know in the comments below. I do feel like if a lot of players saw actual like vehicles that were driving around the map, but it was going to be the exact same 2 or 3 cars every time you saw them, I don't actually think that would be a better way than what we currently have at the moment. But do let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. Would you guys like to see pedestrians walking around? Would you like to see the actual NPC traffic being updated to different cars, or at least more realistic vehicles, instead of some weird cars that don't really make all that much sense?